The end game is to encrypt the whole internet, to be an internet standard, same way TLS has been added to HTTP in 2006.
Hello, and welcome to Proof of Talk, the cryptocurrency podcast where we invite leaders and builders into the space to come on and talk about their experience in the industry, as well as the projects and products that they've been building. My name is Andre, and I've been in the cryptocurrency space since 2017. I've also helped co-found algorithmic crypto trading platform Acier that enables users to quickly and easily automate their trades while managing the risk. I'm here today with Jason, who works with Zama.ai, really interesting open source cryptography company. Nice to meet you, man. How's it going?
Hello, how are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. It's fantastic to see companies like working on creating new kind of encryption technologies, and I think Zama is doing something pretty interesting, and thanks again for being here to kind of explain what it does. I know we had an initial conversation a while ago when we were like planning this podcast, so I know a little bit about FHE, but I think it'd be fantastic to explore that in a bit more detail. But first of all, I wanted to get from you kind of how did you get into cryptography and how did you start working on a product like this?
So I went into cryptography in 2017. Like lots of people, I just bought some ETH and Bitcoin just during the bull run, in November, December.
Yeah.
And that's how I got hooked. And then progressively in the following bear market, I was following people on Twitter, and an article caught my eyes. And I really dug the rabbit hole in crypto, money,
Right.
monetary policy, Bitcoin stuff, geopolitical of money, etc. And when I was a student, I was not interested at all in money, in economics. And then uh, I found it very fascinating, and I read everything I could about it. And then I couldn't stop thinking about crypto. So uh,
Right.
after that, I tried different DeFi protocol during the 2020 DeFi summer. And then a while after, I decided to quit my job. I was working with a developer agency in Paris, and decided to launch a project on Starknet with a friend. Didn't work, but I was in crypto, and then I got this job for Zama 1 year ago.
Okay, awesome. And what's your current role at Zama?
So I'm the ecosystem lead. So in the blockchain, so basically what I'm doing is meeting all the layer ones blockchain, all the protocols who could benefit from the technology we're developing, FHE, which I'll explain. Don't worry. And it's a mix between business development and evangelization of the technology, because it's very new. So you have to explain a lot, do lots of podcasts, just to make people understand, because there is so many new stuff in this space that you always have to explain, and that's normal.
100%. So you got into cryptography by first of all being kind of exposed to crypto and like cryptocurrency, and then kind of those two gel
Absolutely.
together at some point. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely. And that's a huge difference compared to all the people in Zama. Most of the
Right.
people at Zama, they are cryptography researchers. Most of them haven't used an AMM, haven't trade crypto, or do not self-custody on a ledger their crypto. So I'm quite different on this space, but more and more there are like cryptocurrency people coming as we are advancing as a company. But the researcher are mostly focused on cryptography, mathematics, and the underlying tech.
Right. Yeah, because I saw it's a relatively small company. It's 72 people, and but
Yeah,
36 of them have a PhD supposedly in
absolutely.
computer science or cryptography. So that's cool.
Cryptography, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So Zama was founded 4 years ago by Rand Indy and Pascal Payet. Rand is a serial entrepreneur, a French, that he already worked in privacy before. And Pascal is basically one of the inventor of FHE. And the first 3 years were dedicated to advancing the tech. And now that it's ready, we are going to market. So we are selling this to people who need privacy on the blockchain. But first, maybe I can explain what is FHE. Let's start
Yeah, I think that's a
with
good
that if you want.
good point. 100%. Yeah.
So first, so FHE means fully homomorphic encryption. So it's an encryption scheme. And basically the idea is you take some data, your most personal data, the data you don't want to share with everybody. You encrypt them so that nobody can read it. You send it to a server, to a third party, to a cloud, a blockchain. And the server can do computation without decrypting it. So that's kind of crazy because usually in the normal world, a server always decrypt the information. Information is encrypted during the transport layer, but then decrypted by the server to do the computation. But with FHE, that's kind of magical black box where you can do the computation without seeing the data. So you do the computation, there is an output, you send it back to the user, and only the user can decrypt it. So I'll take a pedagogical example. Let's say I take my DNA data, that's very precious. I encrypt it, but I don't trust these companies in Silicon Valley to do the algorithm on them, but I need a service. So I encrypt them using FHE. I send them my data. They can run their proprietary algorithm and their IP on it to detect if I have a cancer or something. I have a chance to have a cancer. There is an output. They cannot decrypt it because everything is encrypted. They are using FHE. They send it to me and only I can decrypt them. So that's kind of magic.
It is honestly kind of magic. It's wild. And there's a lot to unpack there. So it works without decrypting at any point. The server, it just never decrypts the information. It processes, it computes encrypted information. And I thought that's what's absolutely mind-blowing about this kind of thing. I also read an article from IBM. They wrote about homomorphic encryption as well. So it's like it's really emerging. But how many do you think companies or how many applications are there currently of FHE?
So before going in the use case and application, let's start why it's not everywhere yet, because it seems
Right.
so magical that we could ask ourselves, okay, so why don't we use it everywhere on the internet? Why don't
Right.
we update HTTPS in HTTPZ to make it FHE compatible? That would be the end game. And the reason is simple, is that historically this technology has been too slow and too computational heavy. So
Right.
it would require hours of computation and millions in servers to make it work. So that was true a few years ago, but we at Zama are dedicated to this mission to accelerate it and make it usable in the real world. So we have already increased a 1000x improvement in FHE since we started, and we are gaining a 10x improvement every 2 years.
Okay.
So right now, the technology is ready for all the blockchain use cases. Why? Because the blockchain, that's the only industry in the world that is already used to slow stuff and that desperately need privacy, you know?
Yeah.
And that is ready to implement a new crazy cryptographic schemes magic. They did it with ZK 5 years ago, and it worked pretty well. They accelerate this technology like crazy. Even Vitalik couldn't believe it. And so we are doing the same with FHE, bringing it where it's the most needed. And then to all the use case as health data that I just described with my DNA data, the Web2 use cases, we will need more improvement in computation time. We will need hardware accelerators. So right now our libraries are running on CPUs, but progressively we are moving to GPUs, FPGAs, and ASICs so that they can run on the best possible hardware. But it will come next year for the ASICs.
Right. Right. So you've said that it has been historically quite computationally heavy to perform this kind of encryption.
Yes.
How does it compare? Let's say, roughly, if you have a figure in mind, how does it currently compare with something like PGP, for instance, which is super basic encryption, like in terms of
Oh,
speed?
it's like I can give blockchain numbers if you want. So we can do only a few transactions per second in the blockchain, while in the very centralized blockchain can do, I don't know, 10,000 transactions per second. So we are like 100,000 times slower than plain text computation. That's the order of magnitude.
Right. I see. Okay. And that you said it kind of goes 10x every 2 years.
Yes, 10x, depending on how. So we are improving the software layer and the hardware layer to improve it now. But
Right.
that's roughly the order of magnitude.
Right. So you're improving the hardware layer by, like you said, making it compatible on GPUs and on ASICs
Yeah.
eventually, and that'll give you more computational power. Are you guys ever planning to support quantum computing? Because it seems like something that a problem that quantum computing would just be able to like solve the speed
Oh,
issue like that.
this so this is a very good question, and of course we thought about it when we started the company 4 years ago. And the FHE itself and the FHE scheme we are using, TFHE, FHE over the torus. There are many different schemes who are using TFHE. TFHE itself is based on a primitive scheme called LWE, which
Right.
is quantum proof. So the good news is FHE is quantum proof. So we are okay. We are okay if there is a quantum computer coming out of nowhere. We are safe.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I feel like this is also like a very emerging conversation, creating like quantum proof encryption and quantum proof applications. Like I actually came across a couple of articles last week. It was pretty silent on that side, like the tech, but now it seems to be a discussion that's happening. So it's cool to see that you guys are looking into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be crazy today to launch a cryptography company without thinking about quantum proof because we know they are coming. So we need to update all the system, all the TradFi system, all the blockchain systems to it.
Right. So going back to the technology itself, how does it work in simple terms? How can a machine compute information that is encrypted without it having to
So
decrypt
to
it?
So to be honest, I'm not a cryptographer myself, no, not even a developer, even if I tech savvy. So going into details would be quite hard for me. What I can give you is give you just an overview. Basically, what you need to do, so you take your plain text data or the data you want to encrypt,
Right.
then you add some noise. Okay, so you add some noise to do the encryption, and then you run the FHE algorithm. So you run FHE, and historically, when doing the FHE computation, the noise you were adding to your ciphertext was growing too fast, and so your message was getting squeezed.
Got
And
it.
so one thing we are doing is like we have a way of doing FHE where the noise doesn't take all the place. I'm sorry, that's the only level of underlying explanation I can give on this.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I'm not a cryptographer myself, so it's not like if you were to give me a super technical explanation, I would probably not be able to understand it, but I would try, you know. Um, so obviously there are a
Yeah.
lot of advantages, right, to FHE compared to any other kind of encryption. What are the main advantages of using it, or and why should AI and blockchain use it?
So the simplest idea is like just for confidentiality. So we are sending prompt to OpenAI, Claude, and all the new AI tools, and we are revealing what we want to prompt those systems. And
Right.
so ideally, would like to live in a world where we can encrypt the prompt, run the AI, send it the results, and only you can decrypt it because that's like your natural rights. So the first and most obvious one is like just privacy and confidentiality. This is
That's
for AI. And then for blockchain, the goal in the blockchain world, the ideals is to replace the financial infrastructure of the world. It's to update it to something that is much better, much faster. But the main trade-off so far is that we have decentralization. That's great. It's not controlled by anyone, but everything is transparent. And this
Mhm.
transparency is like you couldn't use an Ethereum layer 2 tomorrow, or I don't know, Solana or any huge infrastructure blockchain because it's transparent. I could even pay my bakery or the supermarket because everybody on AI could know what I'm worth. So
Yeah.
that's the infrastructure is not ready. So we are adding this confidentiality layer on top of the blockchain because they have great properties, but they don't have confidentiality as a property. And transparency, in some cases, is a feature of the blockchain, but in most cases, this is a negative side effect we want to get rid of. So the same way you had HTTP to HTTPS, so you first solve the scaling of the web and then you encrypt it. Now we are scaling blockchain, but then we'll encrypt it and we are ready to encrypt it.
Right. Well, I mean, you still have you have Monero, which is privacy focused solution, right, on blockchain. So you have that, but then that brings an interesting conversation because you would need, I guess, like you mentioned with your example with AI, you would probably need all of these companies like Claude and OpenAI to implement FHE, right, to like take your solution,
Yes.
implement it on their side. Do you think they would? Because it seems like they would most definitely want to take that data, feed it back to the AI so the AI can keep learning.
Yes, so you're right, but before answering this one on AI, you mentioned Monero, and I have to react on this. So this is a good point. So Monero, for those who don't know, like Zcash is historically the privacy coin. We have to define something in privacy. When you do a blockchain transaction, there are different things you can encrypt and hide. If you are hiding the sender and the receiver, the regulator do not like it, and that's why they are trying to take down Monero. But that's not what we do. Okay. Let's take, for example, Tornado Cash. On Tornado Cash, you are basically mixing the sender and the receiver, but the amounts, they are public because it's only a bunch of 1 ETH or 10 ETH on Tornado Cash. We are doing the exact opposite of Tornado Cash. So we are not encrypting the sender and the receiver. What we call privacy in the blockchain is encrypted the amount. So if I'm transacting with you, I'm sending you tokens.
Right.
Only the amount being transferred is encrypted. The graph, the sender and the receiver, is fully available, and that's why we believe that this is compliant privacy,
Got
because
it.
we can see who is transacting with who, but we are not the devil like Monero, or even if I don't consider them the devil, I consider them great project. But regarding compliancy and regulations, we at some point we have to work with these guys.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That seems to be the consensus. Like Solana's, they've started offering token extensions, and one of the extension is
Yeah,
a privacy focused token extension, and that's exactly the way you've described it. Is the way it works. It's just it hides the amount or the object transacted rather than the parties involved in the transaction.
you're right. And to answer the second part of your questions regarding OpenAI or strong or other like Web2 or other applications, why would they use privacy? So we believe that user shouldn't care about privacy, but developers should.
Right.
Okay, so that's our big statement. And look at what happened with messaging. At first, end-to-end encryption didn't exist. It wasn't a thing in messaging, and that wasn't something most of the people were requiring. But what happened is at some point there are Signal and there are WhatsApps who did end-to-end encryption. And then it became a standard among the developers and it spread to everybody else. So we want to do the same. Our target people are not our target is audience is not the people in the street, the everyday Joe. It's the developer, and we think that if developer consider it a priority, then it will become a standard. So that's how we approach this thing.
I got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. So, are there any current limitations of applications incorporating FHE at the moment?
So okay, so it's easier to do computation over simple numbers and reals. So you cannot. It's very hard. It's harder to encrypt texts and to do weird computation on text than is it to do on small integers.
Right.
So that's a limitation. Of course, that's why the go-to market is like simple settlements. I'm sending you tokens. You subtract my balance. We add some value to your balance. A very simple computation. And so once the computation become more complex, it's more costly, but it will be tackled with hardware accelerators. So on the short term, yes. On the long term, we believe that hardware acceleration will be so huge that you'll be able to do all the FHE computation like you don't even think about it.
That's awesome, man. That's seriously awesome. So going back to use cases, what are the current use cases that you guys are seeing? I'm sure there's some cool use cases that are happening right now in FHE, in encryption, in AI and blockchain. What are the cool ones that you've seen?
So For most of the AI use cases, so first, I'm not a specialist because I'm mostly working on the blockchain team at Zama. But the rough idea is we have to wait for the hardware accelerators in this space. So we won't have broad public use case where this is available, but there are like strong use case in credit scoring, for example, in finance, traditional finance. And for Earth data, there is an amazing amount of stuff. But I can talk maybe more about the blockchain use cases.
Sure.
So as I was saying, we are encrypting the data, and there is one big narrative right now in the blockchain world is the tokenization of real world assets. So
Right.
basically, bonds, stock, private equity, asset-backed securities, all those derivatives products, they are moving on chain very progressively. The dollar already moved on chain with stablecoins. The treasuries are moving also on chain with T-bills. More and more projects are building on this, and a lot of these use case of these assets will require some level of confidentiality. You won't be able to put all the data on chain because that's normal in the business. When two enterprise and two companies transact, lots of data is not public. That's not the norm. The norm is privacy. And the more and more you put this data on chain, for example, for private equity, think about tokenizing a mutual fund, for example. That's not
Right.
private. That's not public. So you have to encrypt it. And this is our go-to-market today. So we are working with financial institutions that want to tokenize assets. So what they did 5 years ago is they tried to tokenize them in private blockchain. It didn't work because private blockchain are just bad databases, as most knows.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's just a bad, you should take a SQL database. But a public blockchain had great properties, composability with the rest of the ecosystem, but they didn't want to use it because it was too transparent and too public. So now you can have the best of the two worlds, public encrypted blockchain using FHE and the composability with the rest of the ecosystem, and you can hide all the data you don't want to share. So that's perfect. So that's this narrative that we are pushing. Another one
Mm.
is
Sorry to
ID.
interrupt you there for a second.
Yeah,
What data would you be encrypted? Would you be encrypting if you were tokenizing a company? Like, what kind of
the
information would you?
state. I'll give the most simple example. So you know what an ERC-20 is. It's a
Right.
smart contract of a token. Okay, on an ERC-20, the balances are public, so you can go on the USDC ERC-20 smart contract. You can see how many tokens is owned by each address. Okay,
Right.
so you can have a private ERC-20 where each amounts, the balances are encrypted data. So you can have the same ERC-20, but everything is encrypted. So if you need to tokenize your company stocks, equity, or a mutual fund, or any other financial instrument, you know who are the owner, but you don't know how many tokens they own. And that's the most simple use case of something you can encrypt.
Oh, that's very
But
good
then,
point. Yeah, for sure. I was talking to one of the former core Ethereum developers a couple of months ago, and he's actually gone from. He was also the guy that built Christoph. He's also the guy that built the first smart contract for the DAO back in 2016, and he's
oh, okay, oh, legend.
right, yeah, like pretty well known guy in Ethereum and everything, and he's moved away from this, and he's been building in the last couple of years. He's actually been building. The reason I bring it up, a asset tokenization solution, and is basically tokenizing GmbH companies, giving them the option to tokenize assets and allowing people to basically almost like crowdfund by buying these tokens. Um, I didn't ask in terms of privacy, but when he spoke to me, he said that he's doing it using ERC-20. So I don't think there's a privacy element to it, which it's really cool. If I'm gonna be in touch with them, I might just mention, to give you
Yeah,
guys a shout.
yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing. And so once you tokenize an asset that require confidentiality, okay, now it's on chain, that's good. You can leverage another benefits of the FHEVM. And so so maybe let's step back a little bit and say, how can you do confidentiality on chain today? You have four different solutions. Okay. One of them is FHE. Okay. Another one is ZK based privacy. ZK is mostly a scaling technology, but it's a little bit a privacy technology. Great companies like Aztec or Alio are trying to solve this problem with ZK. We hope that they will succeed. And so ZK is a solution, MPC is a solution, and trusted execution environment are the last solution. So you have those four different solutions. FHE is the only one that keeps the composability and the data availability on chain. Okay.
Right.
So contrary to ZK, or maybe no, maybe you can have it in T, but they are not secure. But with FHE, you can keep this amazing property, which is composability. And I'll take an example. Once you have tokenized your private ERC20, your mutual fund or your companies or anything, your assets, and the information is private, then what you can do is have an identity smart contract. For the first time, you can put your private identity on chain because they're encrypted. Okay, so I'm Jason, I'm French, more than 18, I'm not American, etc., etc. I put it in a smart contract on chain. And then you can have this private ERC20 talking with my ID contract, and to send a token, it needs to check that I'm compliant with the rules, with the third smart contract, where all the rules of your local government are written in a smart contract very transparently. And so all of this works together, and you don't need to compute proof, ZK proof. You don't have all this overhead that you have in ZK-based privacy. And it's very elegant, it's very simple, and everything ran on chain.
That sounds like a really cool vision, and I would love to see it happen. It sounds amazing to have an ecosystem that's transparent but secure at the same time on chain.
Yes. So that's what we are like trying to build this year. And we have three amazing companies so we don't run a blockchain ourselves at Zama. We don't have a token. We are not a blockchain company. We're a cryptography company, but we are selling this tech to people launching their own blockchains. And so right now you have three companies, Phoenix, that's the team behind Secret Network also, on the Cosmos, privacy layer on Cosmos. You have Inco, and another one is Shiba Inu launching an FHE
Oh
blockchain
wow.
called the Treat. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So we have all the spectrum, the most serious guys in tokenization to Shiba Inu, great memcoin community. And the three of them will launch an FHE VM before the end of the year, maybe beginning of next year for the mainnet, but the testnet are coming. And you'll be able to, most of them are layer ones today. We cannot do optimistic rollup using FHE, but it will also come, but mostly layer ones, and you'll be able to have smart contract on them and try all these use cases that I'm seeing on. Like always in blockchain, mostly will be surprised by what people build. So there will be hackathon on everything, and people will come with great ideas. Of course, casino games is one of them. For the first time, you can have
Right.
an encrypted state to play poker, to play blackjack. We know that gambling is a great product market fit for with all these meme coins and that like degen stuff you have on chain. So it will work for sure.
For sure, yeah, and like that's the cool thing when you build something which is more of like an infrastructure kind of technology, because it allows new companies to come in and use that technology in a way that you haven't even thought about. Like they're gonna be building things you would not even expect. There was a really cool example we had in one of the previous episodes talking about a similar topic. Is like imagine you're building the Apple iPhone. It's 2007. You just built the iPhone. Like, would you be able to predict Uber? You probably wouldn't.
No, of course, because like there are billions of people more intelligent than you that want to solve other problem. They will see your technology and they will make it their own. And I'm really excited. This is only the beginning. I've been in Zama for like 1 year. It was mostly research, but now we are like putting this stuff in production, confronting it with the real world, real use cases with developers. And so this is an exciting time. We know that this is a core problem to solve in blockchain. We have everything. Scalability is being solved. EIP 4844 has been great on Ethereum. Like UX is being solved with a kind of abstraction on many other new technology. And now privacy is the last big challenge that remains to be solved.
That's fantastic. What was the solution you said you're working with Cosmos, a privacy focused solution for Cosmos?
Oh, so Phoenix is one of the company launching an FHEVM blockchain, and they used to run a secret network. Secret network is a
Okay.
Cosmos blockchain using a trusted execution environment as a privacy tech. And they are like OG of privacy in the blockchain space. Previously, it
Right.
was called Enigma too. Some people know it as Enigma, but it's rebranded as a Secret Network. And so now the same team is launching Phoenix. They are like super guys, great focus on privacy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna look them up because I like the Cosmos ecosystem. I think they have a like their idea of bringing together the entire Web3 and crypto ecosystem is fantastic. So it's great to see other developers building on top of Cosmos. That's really cool too. So your solution currently is focused towards, I'd say, institutions or foundations or businesses rather than individuals. Would there be an use case for an individual or a small team of developers that might want to adopt that?
Of course, there is always place for such developers. So our focus is on layer one, layer two, people who want to integrate FHE as a new module in their blockchain. So that's one. The second one is for big institutions that wants to launch something like maybe an Avalanche subnet using FHE or their own blockchain. And for all the developer or people or individuals, what they can do is first participate in hackathon of Phoenix Inco Treat Shiba. And also they can also develop on our DevNet. We have a DevNet, which is some
Okay.
kind of one server blockchain just for people to play with it. They can do that. And but mostly once you have to wait for developers to build application for the end user to use them, of course.
Yeah, that's a lot of the time what happens in crypto because it's still a like it's a highly emerging space. You need to rely on the developers and teams building up kind of the infrastructure that then allows the end user to make use of these in a nice and seamless way. And it seems to be a topic that kind of again I see a lot of companies building towards this or talking about it, which is again it's really good to see. So apart from AI and blockchain, which is obviously your focus right now, are you planning to be part of other industries, or are you looking at other areas where FHE could be added?
Yeah, finance, just traditional finance outside blockchain is a big market for us. We
Right.
are already in talk with lots of big banks, institutions, research team within banks are really interested in FHE as it could solve many problems for them. Maybe one of the most simple use case for banks is like credit scoring. You know, right now,
Right.
imagine you have two banks or one banks and one insurance or let's say two banks. Both banks have their customer databases with a loss of private information. This is highly regulated and they cannot do anything with them. They can just keep it and use them internally. So it's very hard for these institutions to collaborate together and to share
Mm.
some data because too many regulations, too many laws, and it's too risky for them. What you could do is encrypt both databases in FHE, and you could run computation on them just to check if there is some common patterns, if there is some, I don't know, lots of additional intelligence of running computation of both blockchain and only revealed what can be revealed. And you can work like this. So that's an interesting use case for banks.
That's cool. So you'd be able to cross check what like accounts or information between accounts.
Yes, yes, cross-checked or apply common rules without decrypting your data. Because right now, these guys are not sending their data at all. They don't collaborate with anybody. Like it's hard for them.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But
that's interesting.
and they could collaborate without trust. So that's what we'd like to offer.
Yeah, is that something you're currently working on, or you're just on it's on your roadmap in the future?
So it's on our roadmap, but the talks are already engaged with these people. But they are waiting for improvement in scalability.
I see. Yes, because of the highly expensive computation, that is still a bit of a I get that. So what are your guys' plans for the next couple of years then?
So next couple of years, so hardware acceleration will be a big thing. We'll have to update our libraries to make them perfect for the hardware acceleration. And then the end game is to encrypt the whole internet, to be an internet standard, same way TLS has been added to HTTP in 2006. We have this meme of endgame, which is HTTP-Z, Z as Zama encrypted, but we don't see any limits in this technology. You could rebuild all the current application using FHE on a long term if your timeline is long enough. Why would you give your personal data to Facebook? You just need Facebook to run huge server running on encrypted data, but you don't want them to know anything about you, and you want to control your private key with all your data, and you could decide who you can reveal to. And you know FHE could work perfectly well with other cryptographic primitive like zero knowledge. I won't go into details, but there's great way to make all these technology collaborate together to have a more encrypted, secure, private, confidential internet.
That's a big goal, and I do hope to see it happen because I think data is being monetized to shit right now, which is it's crazy.
Yeah,
It's also going to be very disruptive as well because if you're suddenly blocking monetization for companies like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, stuff like that,
yeah,
they're
but
going to have to
for
adapt to that
them,
kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, but we have a way to match user data with people who want to make advertisement that could match them together. They could be paid the right way without Facebook being the middle and seeing everything, and that would be great. So everybody would be very happy. Of course, you want to keep some advertisement. It's a legitimate industry. It's just too big now, and that's the only way to monetize most of the social networks. But there is good intermediary where the central player doesn't see anything, and we think it could be great. But we don't want to get rid of this model. It's not. I don't think it's plausible.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends how you see the internet developing in the next few years because it looks like it's more moving towards a subscription base slowly. Like people kind of had a shock when Twitter moved to the subscription, like $8 a month thing, but a lot of people have accepted it, and it looks
Yeah,
like it's going to be moving in that direction. So maybe who knows? Maybe we live in a world where advertising on the internet is just going to be a thing of the past. You're just going to have subscriptions on top of subscriptions that you'll pay for what interests you as a
yeah.
user.
And on social networks, I'm really interested into what's happening in the forecaster ecosystem right now. That's so great. I'm really optimistic
Oh.
about decentralized social network where you can choose which is your client. So you don't like Warpcast, you can use Supercast, you can use like many of the different clients. That's I've become optimistic about decentralized social network recently.
Me too. Me too. I didn't know much about it up until 2 months ago, and I went on Farcaster. I've created a Farcaster account. I've gone into like looked at how it works, and it's so cool to have the data on the chain, and then anybody could build a different client. Let's say you want to show that data differently. You want to create different kind of taxonomies for your groups, or you have different algorithms to compute that data and to display it to the users. There's no limitations on where it could technically go. It's really fun. It's really fun.
Absolutely.
Imagine if you had like something like Twitter or like a big social network at that scale, just have a completely decentralized index, and then anyone could kind of take it and create their own little application client for it. It's fantastic. I love to see more of that stuff. Do you have a
Yeah, me
Farcaster
too.
account?
Yeah, I have a Farcaster account, of course. I'm testing everything I can on the blockchain. That's a space I just love, I just love being here. And something I really love about this space is even people who has made like dozens of millions, like they are still participating, at least in the Ethereum community, and that's something I really like. People are really happy to be here. It's one of the few really, really optimistic community in the world. There is a lots of tensions. There is a lots of fears, but I love this space for being like so future driven and optimistic.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Farcaster, if you look at the different, like Twitter is very price focused. Like people talk a lot about charts and price, and on Farcaster,
Yeah,
people seem to be talking more about the tech and building it. And
yeah, yeah, because it's more like more researchers, more like high quality content for people. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's a good space. I think it's a good space for anyone that wants to learn more about crypto and kind of understand more than just the price hype that's happening every day now. Um, but yeah, listen, man, this has been great. Thanks a lot for coming on. Do you have anything that you want to share with the audience? Any links or anything you want to announce?
Nothing special to announce. Last week we announced a fundraise of 73 million dollars at Zama.
Congratulations.
So that's just the beginning for us. You can go on Zama.ai, or you can follow me on Twitter at ABJZ on Twitter, ABBEY ZZY. I'm not sure I pronounce it correctly, but you'll put it in the description probably.
Will
And
do.
yeah, very very happy to be here. And follow me if you want to follow privacy stuff on blockchains.
Nice one, man. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure, and let's do this again sometime. Maybe we get a 1 year update or something about Zama, see where you guys are at.
Whenever you want, and you'll be welcome if you come to Paris.
Will do. I might take you up on that. I might just go to NFT Paris next year. I'll be there.
Perfect. Just write to me. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man. See you around. See you, everyone. Bye.